Hello and welcome to Fresh Face Comics, the comic book podcast where a lifelong comic book reader guides his friends through the world of comics for the first time. My name is Joey Morgan, the aforementioned lifelong reader. With me as always is Jacob Licklider, the aforementioned newbie.
Never underestimate the energy of an edgy 10-year-old trained by a League of Assassins.
Yeah, absolutely. Is energy the right word? I feel like it's like demonic possession is like the word you're looking for.
I think energy is the right word.
I gotta say, I had like the biggest dumbass grin on my face because I didn't think about it for 2 weeks straight. But the second I started doing the intro, I thought about last time when I fucked up and I was afraid of fucking up again. And it's how I'm starting today. So anyway, welcome back to DC Comics.
Welcome
Fresh Face
to
Comics.
DC.
It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit.
Been a while.
Yeah. Today we're talking about Batman by Grant Morrison. We're starting the one of the longest Batman runs out there, and we're doing quite a bit of it. We're doing the first couple stories collected in the Batman and Son Deluxe Edition. This is Batman and Son. What the fuck are the other stories called? I know they have like longer names.
The Black Glove.
The Black Glove. That's the other big one.
The Black Glove is actually the bulk of this collection.
Yeah, which it was so much so it the Black Glove is sort of the thing that's like teased on the cover of the deluxe edition, which makes sense. So it's cool.
Also,
cool.
But Batman and Son has name power because
the first appearance of the little shit himself,
Damian Wayne,
which is a big reason why we're doing this today, because you haven't read much Damian Wayne stuff.
I have not.
And why not start at the beginning?
I mean, it's for a character like Damian. I mean, a very good place to. This is the second Robin we're really starting at the beginning with, because we technically started at the beginning for Tim.
We did, but then we jumped immediately ahead with Tim. But they're the only two that we've started from the beginning with, which also makes sense because Dick and Jason are just kind of general, like everyone kind of knows their stories. Tim and Damian are a little more specific. Damian especially though. What did you know about Damian Wayne going into this? What was your experience with the character? What did you know?
Surprisingly, a decent chunk. I knew Damian was Batman's son. I knew quite a bit about his backstory. I actually knew going in that he wouldn't become Robin proper by the end of this.
Although he does wear a Robin costume in it. It's still there. Briefly. Yeah, it's there.
It's there. I knew quite a decent bit about, I guess, the vibe of the character. We had, for the podcast, we had done briefly one of his appearances in Batman Hush, in the adaptation of Hush.
That's true. That's true. We also had a small appearance in the early Scott Snyder stuff with like Court of Owls and all that, which actually showed the softer side of a very little Damian Wayne.
But that's also Damian who had at that point had some development. But
that was also running alongside Tomasi and Gleason's Batman and Robin, which had some especially edgy Damian Wayne content, which was definitely meant to take place before a lot of the Snyder stuff. So like you had a general idea of the character. But yeah, I know I had warned you going into this. I was like, okay, I know you've done some Damian stuff, but this isn't quite like that. Like early Damian is very much his own beast.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think rightly so, because it's clear Grant Morrison has a plan for this character.
With also a nice little contingency plan in the background in case Damian doesn't go over well with people. So
and I don't think Damian went over too well initially.
Not especially well. No, but
because I know Tim Drake as a Robin, second longest Robin since Dick. Since Dick, because Dick was Robin until 84, 83, 84 when
that's right around there.
So that's a very long time. And I've seen a lot of complaints about modern DC that Damian kind of pushes Tim into a limbo, and I can see that happening, but I don't think Morrison contributes to that.
No, Morrison doesn't do that. And also, I will say there is in my opinion at least, a fairly like concentrated effort to have them sort of like share the spotlight. There's the current team book of Batman and Robin by Joshua Williamson, and Chip Zdarsky is using Tim pretty regularly in the main Batman title, which is really cool. Plus, Tim also kind of recently had his own
ongoing,
run, which was a thing. I read all of it actually.
I was gonna say, I know you read it, and I know it was.
I did read it, and it wasn't great.
I heard very mixed things.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever. We win some, we lose some. It's okay. But anyway, we're actually oddly enough not talking about Damian much outside of the like 4 issues out of the 15 we're covering today.
Yeah, because because there's 4 issues with him concentrated, one particularly interesting issue then later on.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's clear. We should probably say for listeners that in the middle of this of the back half of the story arc, there's an issue jump because
crossover event, which actually does feature the second major appearance of Damian Wayne, which is odd that it happens there, and it's not all collected here. It's just annoying, but whatever.
It's annoying.
I'm also curious.
That crossover we'll be doing next time.
We will. Be sure to check out next Fresh Face Comics. But I was also curious what you knew about the Grant Morrison run as a whole going into this book.
I know that this is very much Grant Morrison. Everything is canon. Everything is in play. I know that Morrison is responsible for writing Final Crisis, and that's a very big part, like a sidestep in this run at some point that I'm sure we'll do, because
it's one of those things that's not included in the Omnis, but it really, really should be, I think. That and Battle for the Cowl, which isn't by Grant Morrison, but like it should be in there. Come on,
should be in there. But also the entirety of Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul.
Resurrection. Yeah, there are some key things that these omnibus volumes are missing, and it's really weird that they're not there. They should be there. We'll be covering them on the podcast, but it really sucks that even after buying 3 omnis, you can't have technically the entire run and read them straight and understand absolutely everything.
Here's the thing: they're also not particular. They're not like they're omnis. They're decent length, but they're not like the longest I've seen omnis. We've covered.
No, yeah, and they're cheap. They're a lot cheaper than your typical omni. They're still not cheap. They're still not like cheap books in general, but you know, they're easier to come by.
They're easier to come by, and you can get them on sale pretty easily.
But it's the fact that it's like, you know, here are 3 fucking volumes of it, and it's not the whole thing.
You still need at least 1, 2,
at least 3 other trades. I would say at least.
At least 3 trades, maybe 4, but the 4th is, I believe, completely out of print. That was slid until somewhere in the second Omni.
The Return of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I was talking about the 4th volume of Batman and Robin in between. Yeah,
I don't think that's included in the second Omni.
That's the one that's missing. It's
Sorry, I thought you had said that it was included in the second Omni.
No, it's like the one thing that's missing because it's not by Morrison. It's by other people.
But anyway,
I will say the Omnis are still well worth your purchase. They are nicely compact, even if they are missing some key things.
Yeah. But also, this is our non-spoiler section. So, as with all non-spoiler sections, let's get into some questions.
Yes.
So, first off, on Discord from our friend Andrew, friend of the podcast, says, first off, Bat Morrison questions. Jacob, since you've only read modern Damian before this, did this story give you whiplash in terms of characterization?
Not particularly. What's interesting, so this is another example of me being allowed to bring up my comics are a soap opera comparison. There's this interesting concept in soap operas that when you that over time you introduce a soap opera character, they're going to soften and become more like their actor, and that's kind of what this feels like in a lot of ways.
That's understandable. Yeah,
like really harsh, borderline of I don't want to say borderline, definitely like antagonistic character.
He's fucking evil. This man is the devil. Like, come on. This, there's an issue in this specifically focused around Damien, and it's issue number 666.
This is
Satan.
true.
This is the spawn of Satan. Come on. Like, that is, there's a reason he's named Damien, just like the character in The Omen. There's like that. It's not a coincidence.
Somehow I didn't make that connection. I really should have.
No, that is absolutely why he's called that. Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Anyway, both of you, Grant Morrison has a very distinct method of pacing and storytelling. Did you find it compelling, frustrating, or something in between? Yeah, I think with a lot of almost all Morrison books I've read, they're not quite for the faint of heart. A lot of it can be weird as fuck and not quite appealing to new readers. You know, get some experience under your belt before you jump right into Morrison.
I kind of just took it in my stride, like.
Well, you also have Morrison experience.
So. I do. I've read All Star Superman, so there's that. But also, what I find interesting is the actual Batman and Son story. Those 4 issues. This isn't like a knock on the issue. It's not really criticism, but it's a standard 4-issue story.
Yeah, like, it's not particularly Morrison, which isn't a bad thing.
You know? I mean, it's very Morrison, but it's not Morrison in that way.
Like, yeah, it's Morrison in the way of. I'm blanking on examples now.
it's Morrison in the way of they're telling a story, and it's their voice. They're just not being what they're most known for.
Yeah, I think it's the issue right after Batman and Son that Morrison goes full Morrison.
That's when they go full Morrison, and we'll talk about it because
I love it. It's great. Moving over to Twitter for some questions then. Our friend Kian at Kian the Quark says, finally we're back to peak. Kian, did you miss the coverage of Jason Aaron's Thor?
And Planet Hulk.
And Planet Hulk.
And
Frank Miller's Daredevil. And Chris Claremont's X-Men. Literally our entire Marvel block minus Stan Lee's Spider-Man.
And even then, Stan Lee's Spider-Man wasn't bad. It was just different.
It wasn't peak like the others.
It wasn't peak, but it's also equally fascinating.
Yeah. Point being, Kian, come on. We've been on peak for a while. Kian also says, as it's topical with the DCU's Batman taking inspiration from this run, who would you cast in the primary roles? I don't know. I know. Well, I know in our way back when we imagined a potential DC cinematic universe, I had thrown out Tom Sturridge as a Batman casting before. Perfect goth man.
Yes.
I think that would be awesome. Maybe not quite Father Batman, considering that's what they're going for in those movies. But that is still a casting I would like to see. I think there are a lot of great child actors that could do Damien potentially.
Yeah. Damien needs to be cast as a child because Morrison especially characterizes him as a child. Mm-hmm. Like, it is utterly fascinating. He's supposed to be like 10, I think. Mm-hmm. Like in the text, he's a 10-year-old, and it's a really interesting dynamic, and a lot of really interesting ideas.
Whoever they cast, the child has to be grown in a tube as well. So there's that. Fucking hell. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think about like castings that much. I don't know. I usually just kind of like take them in their stride as they come, you know. I guess it's the reason why I haven't been really let down by any of the castings for Superman Legacy, because I think they're all great actors, and I haven't really thought too hard about it. So I try not to worry myself about those things personally. Yeah, as long as it's a good film, I hope. So
please let it be good.
I hope it's good. Let's see, next up, there's a bit of a Twitter spat that I will read the entirety of now. Our friend Jamie, at Jamie_season7, says, best Batman run. I don't quite agree with that, but I mean, hey, sure, valid take. It's definitely up there. Kian replies, rare Jamie W. Jamie says, rare. And Twitch Kian replies, did I fucking stutter? Jacob, how do you feel about the commonality of Jamie W's?
I mean, we've had Jamie on the podcast, and you know,
but it was also on a book that he didn't
doesn't
like,
which is interesting.
which was Batman Hush.
However, that's
which
an
he was
outlier.
very wrong about. So
Jamie usually has some pretty good takes.
It's
usually
true.
Does. He usually
It's
does.
true.
Not always. Not always.
Jamie also likes Thor Ragnarok.
Again, he has some good takes.
Some.
Kim also has some good takes and some baffling takes, but
yeah,
this is not a Doctor Who podcast, so I won't go into some of the baffling ones.
Yeah. Point being, me and Jacob are the only right ones.
Yes.
Yes. Our next up, our friend Rules Panda at Joey Can Read This says, "What is your favorite portrayal of Damian Wayne that is not part of the DC animated movie universe?" I really like the kid in Battle of the Super Sons. I think he's really good.
That was fun. I haven't seen much of.
I know you've seen Battle of the Super Sons, though. Right?
I've seen Battle of the Super Sons, and that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've really seen anything great outside of those, though. I do love the joke portrayal in Harley Quinn.
Yeah, he's fun in Harley Quinn.
He's very fun in that.
But Harley Quinn is also,
it's not like Damian, but you know, he's fun. He's very fun.
Yeah, Harley Quinn has a very specific tone.
Oh yeah. A style of humor that version of Damian very much fits. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Probably that, and yeah, the Battle of the Super Sons one. That was really great. I enjoyed that. I like the way they did the John Damian relationship in that. So
yeah, that was very fun.
Yeah.
I'm honestly excited that we're seeing Damian brought to the big screen.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah,
just because, I mean, I've said this before. We haven't had like a big screen Robin since Chris O'Donnell.
Oh, don't remind me, please. That's I hate that statistic more than a lot of things.
We have had 4 theatrical Robins. 2 I haven't seen because they were in serials from the 40s.
I haven't seen those either, actually. I have both of them on DVD, and I have not watched them.
You know what? We should maybe do a Batman serial commentary.
That would be fun. That would be fun. I might enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, our final Twitter question comes from our friend English Giraffe at English_Giraffe. Says, "How do you feel about Talia al Ghul's portrayal in Batman and Son, since Morrison's handling of her as a character tends to be one of the more controversial aspects about their run?"
So I should probably say, I have actually read Tales of the Demon, which is the collection of Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams.
Mm-hmm. Great collection.
Fantastic collection.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. And there are some things with Talia here, especially in Batman and Son itself, and a little bit later, that play on some problematic tropes, as well as there's a retcon here that was Morrison forgetting their lore in a weird lapse of judgment. That I, to be honest, I don't entirely love that's become part of Damian's standard origin. We'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah, which I think they also adapted to the movie, don't they?
They did, and I'm like,
yeah, it's a weird thing.
It's a choice. It's a trope that happens that I've seen happen quite a bit.
You know what weird piece of Batman media doesn't accept that retcon?
What?
Arkham City.
That's interesting.
There's a throwaway line, because I know you know that Talia's in that game, right? I'm assuming you know.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. There's a throwaway line, and the Arkham games never do Damian or anything, but there's a throwaway line that alludes to the fact that night happened, and they don't imply the thing that this book implies, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. It's a really weird thing, and I'm glad you caught on to it, because it's a weird conversation to have, that like Talia is, for a run that is so universally acclaimed as the Grant Morrison Batman run, something that people usually latch onto is, wow, what the fuck is up with Talia?
Morrison also at points makes Talia a girl boss, and it's weird. And again, it just doesn't. Okay, I will say again, my big connection to the character is that Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams trade, and of course Talia's appearances in Batman the Animated Series, where she's adapted very well.
Oh, I love her in that series. She's so good.
She's great. So it just feels weird when.
Oh wait, no, Jacob, you're forgetting the best Talia al Ghul adaptation in The Dark Knight Rises.
Marion Cotillard was wasted in that movie.
Absolutely. But yeah, I remember even seeing one time someone say that, like, yeah, I couldn't even finish the Morrison Batman run because Talia's portrayal just made me really uncomfortable.
And I can understand that discomfort.
Yeah. So,
that being said, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's a great book. But Talia's a big point of contention for a lot of people.
That is the one big black mark on what we're covering today.
Yeah. I will say, Talia being a regular character throughout the run, I do think she gets better by the incorporated stuff at the end. That's me personally. I don't know if that's a shared opinion by a lot of people, but that's what I think at least. But,
yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I think you were going to say something before I cut you off.
Well, that's what I was going to actually say. I was gonna say you mentioned that she gets better by the end of it. But we aren't covering the end of it. We are covering the beginning.
So, but yeah, I think that does our Twitter questions, and as such, I believe our non-spoiler section. So, if you don't know already, next time on Fresh Face Comics, we're talking about a story that takes place in the middle of all of this Batman and Son Deluxe Edition craziness. We're talking about the resurrection of Ra's al Ghul by a bunch of different authors and artists. The crossover event between Batman, Detective Comics, Robin, and Nightwing at the time. It's going to be
including of course, Grant Morrison and Paul Dini. I think this is my first proper comic Paul Dini.
I believe so. Yeah. So that's cool. Excited to see what you think. So yeah, be sure to join us then. And I guess without further ado, let us get into our spoiler section.
Spoilers. Yes. So
what an opening.
It's an opening. The first issue of this is Batman number 655.
Yes.
And how does one approach this properly?
I mean, it's a fake out opening. It opens on the Batman Nightmare scenario. The Commissioner Gordon has been hit with laughing gas. The Joker has killed Batman and has taken Gotham City, and it's the worst thing you can possibly imagine. And the scariest part about it, it's not a dream sequence. This shit's actually happening, leading up to this fucking bizarre moment where Joker has these kids tied up and he's gonna kill them. And right before he does it, Batman pops up out of nowhere with a gun, says "die," shoots Joker in the fucking face, throws his body into a dumpster.
Yeah,
that is the opening of the book. I have to know what you thought of that going in.
So yeah, my brain just went, what? I was like, part of me, I'm like, okay, I'm just gotta write down already. Morrison is shoving a bunch of references here. Like that Joker copter is a Silver Age reference.
Yep. Morrison loves their Silver Age.
There's the crowbar, and then the death in the family pose. I'm pretty sure the Batman with a gun is a reference to some Golden Age comic.
Probably. I mean, Batman literally did have a gun in the Golden Age, so there's that.
Yeah. Also, I noticed Zur-En-Arrh in graffiti on the background of the title page fairly prominently. I should say, I don't know what Zur-En-Arrh is.
I love that.
But I know it's a thing. And it's, I think it involves colorful rainbow Batman, I think.
Yeah.
And one thing I should say, I knew going into this run is that in a way this entire run is a hypothetical, could be viewed as a hypothetical last Batman story to a point. Like,
I would say really just this first volume is.
that's interesting.
Or rather, I suppose this volume, including Final Crisis, is that hypothetical.
So everything of the run up to Final Crisis.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because we're not dealing with like a particularly aged Bruce Wayne, but we're dealing with a Bruce Wayne who, in a lot of ways, is tired and kind of stuck in a rut. If that makes sense. Like, he's at the point where he's probably done as much as he can to save Gotham, and it's only getting worse because we, fairly quickly get the reveal that there have been a lot of fake Batman recently.
This in particular was, the one with the gun that popped up here was a fake Batman. This was an ex-cop here that donned a Batman suit and decided to try to kill the Joker. Joker, in fact, is not dead, but Gordon very much was hit with some laughing gas and is slowly recovering from that.
You see half of his face Jokerized at one point, and it's terrifying.
It's really good.
I should say, these first 4 issues are drawn by Andy Kubert.
Yes, who we've read from before with
Flashpoint.
Yes.
We've read that, I think, with most of the artists throughout this book. Well, we've done Kubert. Tony Daniel does quite a bit.
Yep.
Near the
Tony
end.
Daniel before.
Have we done anything with J.H. Williams the third?
I don't think so.
I'm not sure. I can't remember if Williams.
You're the one that keeps the spreadsheet of everything we've ever covered and every contributor that we've ever covered.
Because I like to thank the people who are involved in things.
Well, yes, that's of course nice, but damn, dude. Anyway, so we get this great.
I don't think we have actually, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but. We get this great little montage of Bruce doing some training and Alfred making some adjustments to the bat suit and serving some food and all that. We had a great double-page spread of the Batcave, which looks lovely, of course. Importantly, also, this is probably the latest, I should say, Batman book we've covered in the pre-New 52 stuff that we've done. So, taking into account, and these are things to think about going forward with this run, is, this is post Jason Todd return Under the Red Hood and Hush and all that.
Yeah, it's post Jason Todd by only like a couple of issues.
Yeah, not much at all. So, and Jason Todd gets brought up pretty directly, I think, in our next book, actually. So
yeah.
So
there's also just there's this so the title of this first issue is Building a Better Batman, and that's kind of the idea, and it feels kind of like the thesis of this entire volume, like because really this is four different stories being told, and they're all very different. They're all presented very differently. They've all got different artists.
Importantly, I would say the second and fourth stories in this book are pretty closely linked.
Yes, they're fairly linked.
But the first and third are very much their own beasts, I think.
Yeah, their own. And the first and third are the ones that really like to reflect about Batman's past and Bruce Wayne's past. A lot of Bruce Wayne's past.
Yeah.
I should also call out these first 4 issues and some stuff later on, colored by Dave Stewart, who is a phenomenal colorist.
Yes.
He was one of the colorists that worked fairly closely with Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale on Catwoman When in Rome.
Some phenomenal colors in that book.
Yeah, and it's the same style here, just not doing Tim Sale art, so it looks very different, but the same ideas in terms of color, in terms of colors, are used here to really good effect. There's some amazing things. Again, this book is going to have a lot of praise.
As it should.
But also, because we have to, we get some Tim Drake content.
Tim Drake content, which is lovely to have here. I know you're a big Tim Drake fan yourself.
Tim is great. Tim deserves a lot.
Yeah. And so here he is. We also get this idea that Bruce is building a new Batmobile, which is very being kept under wraps right now, which is cool. Tim goes out for a drive, and meanwhile, there are some...
Alfred is told not to forget to feed the bats, as if he would ever.
Yes. Oh, that's right. I love this little moment actually, where like Bruce is like, "Wait, you actually feed the bats?" And Alfred's like, well, "Yeah, no shit, man. what do you think happens to them?
How do you think they eat?"
Yeah, it's a great little moment. I love that.
Morrison just does these fantastic little character moments. I don't think we will not have time to call out every single one.
Mm-hmm. But I think one especially, like in a run that is already established, as you mentioned, actually, that it's an older Bruce at this point. He's done a lot of and most of what he can at this point. There are just those little things like, okay, yeah, Bruce has been doing this a while. There are things he still doesn't know, even things as small as that. I love that little detail.
Things that the world's greatest detective is going to overlook.
Yeah,
largely things related to Alfred or Tim or Dick or his family, because Bruce Wayne is a dysfunctional person.
But meanwhile, nefarious things happening because a mysterious woman with a needle is threatening one Francine Langstrom.
Yes, and I didn't realize we were getting some Man-Bat stuff.
Yeah, Man-Bat content. It's great. Followed up immediately by Bruce and Alfred being met by Kirk Langstrom himself, which is really cool. Great to see him here, and he's very nervous about something that he's trying to tell Bruce, but he goes running off, and
because Bruce isn't alone, and what's interesting, partially, Morrison is playing on Jekyll and Hyde here, like, because in a way, Man-Bat's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde character in a way.
Oh, very
from
much
a certain angle.
Yeah. But I think I think what your main exposure to the character is Batman the Animated Series. That's very much the way that show portrayed the character.
Yes.
So it's a very.
I've also read in the 80th anniversary collection. There's a Detective Comics. I think it's the first pre-crisis appearance of Man-Bat, and that's which. Oh, look! The animated series actually adapts some comics.
The animated series adapted a few comics.
It took a lot of inspiration from the comics, even not directly, like in a lot of interesting ways. Didn't always credit the inspirations properly, but it did a little in a lot of ways if you actually look at a lot of like pre-crisis.
The entire show is basically took the entire aesthetic and feel of the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil run.
Yes. I'll also say what's really, really interesting, what almost immediately struck me in this first issue, because after Langstrom goes away, we get Bruce getting ready for a charity event with Alfred. Alfred very much implying that Bruce has been doing the Batman voice even when he's not Batman.
Yeah.
And has to try to relearn being Bruce Wayne. And throughout this volume, we get flirty playboy billionaire Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm. Which is always fun to see.
I think Morrison does that characterization of Bruce the best of anyone that I've seen.
Very possibly, yeah. I also just love the way that Alfred encourages it so much, right down to like the way that like Alfred like coaches him right before you see this charity event happening. He's like, here's how you will begin talking, and then we transition into the charity event scene, and Bruce is going on that exact same speech and line of thought. It's a great moment. I love that. But at this charity event, Action for Africa, it says Bruce's Playboy Bruce Wayne is doing well with the ladies, shall we say?
My voice at this point is early B-Task Kevin Conroy.
Oh, I love that voice so much. I love that voice. It's amazing.
You know exactly what voice
it
is.
Yeah, yep. It's that moment that I love from oddly enough the first Man-Bat episode on Leather Wings. When I don't know if you've rewatched it at all since you first watched it.
I have not.
There's this amazing moment, and it's mostly an animation thing, but like Conroy is doing the big distinction between Bruce Wayne in public, Bruce Wayne behind the scenes, and then Batman. And he's like hanging out in the Batcave in his bat suit, and Dr. March calls him, and he answers the call, and he's still in his Batman suit with the cowl on and everything, and he answers with the public persona Bruce Wayne voice. And there's just this great disconnect, yeah, because you're seeing it come out of Batman's mouth, and it's wonderful. I love that voice in particular. It's amazing.
But I also Morrison is also in touch with like popular children's fiction at the time. He has Alfred reading Artemis Fowl, which is like a kid's fantasy spy book series. I've never read. People have recommended it to me, but I've just never picked it up because I don't read a whole lot of stuff aimed at kids anymore.
Well, Alfred is doing your job for you then.
Yes.
But Bruce and Alfred are being observed by mysterious figures watching them who have bugged the entire charity event. Specifically calling out one that is his the smaller figure's father. Look, it's Damian and Talia. You fucking know. Talia. You know where it's going. It's Damian and Talia.
I think by this point, like even if you didn't know, obviously the readers wouldn't know the character Damian Wayne. Morrison isn't hiding that this is Talia al Ghul. They have Hubert draw Talia in profile with the scene with Francine Langstrom. And it's colored with, that brown hair and just very specific features. And the final page just has her be the one character not in shadow. Well, partially in shadows, but it's
Well, then of course there's also an army of big humanoid bats above them. So yeah, that is our big sort of issue cliffhanger going into our next issue. I forgot to write down what issues they were, so I will.
656.
You could do the numbers. There we go. 656.
Because I take notes and I do my notes by issue.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, going into that issue.
Do you think my analysis just happens, Joey?
No, I don't think it just happens. I just think I don't know what I think. Anyway, on to the next issue. Bruce Wayne meets one Jezebel Jet,
which obviously
okay. So like, I love what Morrison does with this character so much. She comes across exactly how you might fear she comes across, being just a big hot supermodel meeting with Bruce Wayne at a charity event, whatever.
I mean, we've already implanted with the Alfred scene from earlier. Like Alfred listed off all of Bruce's flings outside of Catwoman for obvious reason, but like the people that Bruce Wayne would be connected to. Julie Madison, Kathy Kane, Silver St. Cloud, Vicky Vale, and Jezebel Jet is just feels like the latest in the long line of girlfriends for Bruce Wayne.
But like, fuck, by the end of this book, oh my god, it's so good. I cannot wait to talk about it.
I was theorizing like pretty like almost immediately like, okay, is she supposed, are we going to be paralleling her with Talia at all? And kind of do, but not really.
A little bit, if only in the way of like, this Bruce Wayne's current flame with Talia al Ghul there in the background as well. That's about it though. But anyway, Bruce and Jezebel hit it off immediately, and meanwhile, Alfred is reading Artemis Fowl still in his car, which is just, I don't know, nice little detail. But he notices Kirk and Francine Langstrom terrified, running from something, and that something is of course the giant man bats that Talia was surrounded by last issue, which are flying through the sky, and they crash the charity event that Bruce is at the moment. And Bruce slips into the shadows and re-enters as Batman,
And we get this great internal monologue in across like these five mini panels. It's not Langstrom, not Man Bats, Ninja Man Bats. Alarming twist.
It's so good. But yeah, he reemerges as Batman, and then actually most of the issue turns into a fight sequence. A very nice fight sequence.
A very good fight sequence. A very clever fight sequence, because we're in a gala with a bunch of like pop art, Roy Lichtenstein, Andy Warhol style paintings on the wall.
I do love the pop art of Golden Age Wonder Woman in the one panel.
Yes, there's the Golden Age Wonder Woman, which is again interesting, but also there's onomatopoeias of the blam of a grappling gun, but like on the actual, it's just fantastic.
Little details like that, yeah. It just it totally makes the scene. It's awesome.
We also get a very brief flashback to I think it's supposed to be I think it's supposed to be Bruce and Dick, much younger, celebrating Thanksgiving with an Aunt Agatha, which okay, Morrison, that's a deep cut.
Yep. Great. But yeah, again, most of it's fight sequence. Batman fights Ninja Man Bats, and what is there not to love about that? It's a great time, culminating in this moment towards the end of the issue, then, where the Man Bats are able to subdue Batman and hold him in place as Batman is presented with Talia al Ghul and a short
is kidnapped. Batnapped, to be precise.
Yes.
As well as the Prime Minister's wife. Because there's a political undercurrent to all of this, which is again interesting. If we wanted to, like, I could have seen an argument for just doing these first 4 issues. Like, I'm glad we didn't, but like
it would have been a very short episode.
It's very there's a lot of interesting stuff that Morrison is doing here. But yeah, it's Talia, and this is where we get the big black mark.
The retcon. So Talia.
So there's this very famous it's when Bruce and Talia in the 70s Batman issue have sex. And
which also is important to note that pretty much I don't think they would ever reprint it these days. There's actually a story from way back when implying that Bruce did impregnate Talia at the time, but nobody liked it. So they're like, no, fucking Batman can't have a son. So they got rid of that immediately, only to bring that idea back now. So it's a cool idea. But it's one line of dialogue Bruce retorts with I remember being drugged, senseless, and refusing to cooperate in some depraved eugenics experiment. That's a lot of really bad tropes. Yeah.
Thrown into one panel, and this whole idea...
I also just don't like Bruce-Talia relationships that are portrayed as like Talia is like this weirdly clingy like ex-girlfriend that Bruce can't get rid of. Like, I don't know.
Well, also a decent chunk
there's a connection there. Like, come on.
Characters are allowed to have multiple love interests. Like that's a thing. It's healthy because
we say this as massive Batcat shippers. It's okay. Bruce can like multiple people.
Yes. But also the specific line is heavily rooted in Orientalist tropes. Orientalism being sort of the fetishization of usually East Asian people, Middle Eastern people, and basically people from all around Asia. There's a very famous essay by Edward Said called Orientalism, which is where it gets its name. And Morrison is kind of playing into these tropes really heavily.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It sucks. Because Morrison is a good writer. I do believe, I don't have concrete evidence that Morrison, at some point after writing this, has issued, I don't want to say issued an apology, but has reflected and realized maybe I shouldn't have done that.
I mean, Morrison is is not infallible.
No,
It's like the Alan Moore thing. Like it's just like they're.
Your fave is problematic, guys. That's
and that's okay. That's fine. We learn, we move on, we grow as people. That's
it would only
cool.
become a problem if Morrison completely denied it and went down a very un-Grant Morrison route.
Yeah. Which certainly would not bring us to the Morrison we know today, I dare say. But importantly, the point of this scene is Damian Wayne
banger of a final page.
Damian, little shit that he is, points a sword at Batman's chest and says, "Father, I imagined you taller." And it's a great moment.
Also, the title of this issue, I get why they kept it for the final page, the bang, but it's called Man Bats of London.
It's great.
Introduce that title earlier because it's a great fucking title.
It is.
Also, great covers, especially for this issue and the next issue, using this sort of like neutral light backgrounds. 657, the next issue especially, has a completely white background.
It's just the stark white, and it's this great action shot of Bruce standing between Tim and Damian as they attempt to go at each other. We open on that issue with Bruce introducing Damian to the cave. It's again, great moment. Love big Bat Cave shots. This is called Part 3, Wonder Boys. We know what we're getting into. Damian is, first off, unimpressed, little shit. Fucking hate him, but I love him.
Yeah.
Same.
and actually, what I do want to say here is that Morrison nails writing this very internal conflict for Damian Wayne, right? Like, especially in these, and it's really just in these last two issues of this sort of first four, because Damian doesn't appear much after that. And when he does, it's fairly brief. But there's this great conflict of torn between his mother and his father and not quite knowing how to react. Being very much kind of brainwashed by the League of Assassins. We get a partial reveal of the new Batmobile, which is not finished at all. It does not even have wheels yet.
No, it's great.
and Damian
immediately gets into an all-out fight with his father.
Yeah.
And then is met with Tim Drake, who sees Damian and is introduced to the idea of Batman having a child, and is like, okay, that's fucking weird. I'll still be civil. I'm Tim Drake. Let's move on.
I am going to try to be nice. Show this kid some acceptance.
Damian Wayne is not the same. And I would say figuratively tells Tim to fuck off, but no, he actually says "fuck you" to Tim and Alfred.
Well, first, his initial line to Tim is, "Don't patronize me, or I'll break your face."
I love him. Oh wow, what an abrasive dick!
But it feels right. Like, it's like I feel kind of sympathy for this child. So I'm like, oh.
I'm not sure I would feel sympathy for the kid yet.
I'm very much reading it as this kid is like, doesn't know how to react to a father he never knew. See, the way Morrison writes it, it feels very much like Damian as a character was expecting a very different reaction from his father. Damian was expecting antagonism and like a deadbeat dad. But, Bruce didn't know Damian existed and is almost immediately, okay, I'm opening my home to you.
It's interesting because there's a small implication here, and one that would actually be further solidified by future iterations of and retellings of Damien's early years before he met his father. That Talia would tell these like stories and like great legends basically of Damien's father, the great Batman. And so when Damien meets him and Batman is not this horrible, miserable, cold-blooded killer, that's why Damien is let down. More than the idea that Batman is it should be resenting him in Damien's mind.
Yeah, but it's very much this idea of a picture, and he's just the kid lashes out, and it's really interesting. And we have we have Tim's like, okay, Bruce, you need to tell me what happened. You have a son. What's all this? And Bruce also reassures Tim, this doesn't change anything. Yeah, Tim, you're still basically one of my children.
Yeah.
I think at this point, Tim has been adopted by Bruce because his dad's dead.
But Tim also, like, I think reasonably, reacts as like, okay, well, you couldn't tell me about any of this, like he walks away from Bruce, and this causes Bruce to then go check on his child, who's already being miserable, and Alfred is also giving up on Damien already, and I love this moment. Maybe I just like watching little shit Damien get yelled at, but Batman yells at Damien. It's this great moment,
and it's scary. Like
it is. It's drawn like he's drawn like a monster in that moment. Yeah, it's great, but but the scene is played for what it is. It's a father yelling at his son for being a dick, and
a father who's never had to like. It's not that Bruce hasn't had to deal with a rebellious child, because Jason could get rebellious, as far as I know, but Jason's rebellious streak was also something that's been overplayed in more recent stories than perhaps apparently that original like immediate post-crisis run.
Yeah, Well, really, it would be more the post-crisis Robin stuff where he was a bit more edgy.
But even then, it's overplayed. Like there's even post-crisis stuff where Jason. No, there was a healthy Batman Robin dynamic with Bruce and Jason that people don't like to talk about, even post-crisis.
Yeah, exactly.
And nowhere to the extent of Damien lashing out with throwing food at the walls.
Yeah. But anyway, meanwhile, nefarious things happening because there's a bad guy who wears a green
the
cloak.
Spook?
Yes.
I wrote Scooby-Doo Ghost Villain.
And he has thugs that work for him that wear white sheets over their heads like ghosts, or
I was gonna say these are
potentially other horrible people.
I just read as ghosts because
they're meant to look like ghosts, but
they're the classic kid in a Halloween costume of a ghost, not the other thing.
Yeah. But also importantly, one of these thugs is a cop undercover, and he gets found out, and it does not go well for him to say.
And Bruce comes in and everything's beat up, and then the Spook turns out is dead and missing his head.
At which point, Damien returns to the Batcave.
And
for the
I love this interaction because Tim is just like, hey, you don't have to train on your own. We can spar. Tim is trying. Tim is making the effort.
I have to know, when I told you that Damien was a bit more abrasive early on, did you expect this 10-year-old to cut off a man's head in this book?
I didn't expect it, but by this point, here's the thing. I didn't expect it, but by this point, it didn't surprise me. Like, I'm like, no, this is a child raised by the League of Assassins. This is someone who has been put into a morality where killing is normal and fine and isn't going to... It's going to have plenty of psychological damage, but isn't going to physically have that psychological damage about cutting off some dude's head.
Yeah. Also, he presents this head to Tim with a grenade in its mouth. And also just, it's surprisingly graphic for just a regular comic being published under any particularly adult label. Just, it's a weird moment. It's a really weird
well,
moment.
here's the thing: they get away with it because there's no blood. It's
Yeah,
just
well, there's the implication of blood.
there's the implication, but there isn't nothing explicit.
Yeah.
Also, Damien can perfectly mimic the voice of Tim Drake.
Yeah,
which
that's fucking yeah, yeah, which is the thing that allows him to
enter the cave,
enter and exit the cave, and sneak in and out no problem.
and we have this big Tim Damien fight sequence using obviously the grenade in the head goes off.
And we get this throughout their fight that ensues. We get Damien basically hates Tim because Damien has already concocted this story in his head that Tim thinks that he's Batman's true son and that he will take over the Batman mantle one day, and when Damien believes it is his birthright to be Batman.
So, and I'm gonna be honest, I could see a future where Tim Drake becomes a Batman, but I also it's so clear Morrison. Not even it's really subtle characterization for Tim of no, we can both be Batman's children. This doesn't need to be some crazy birthright thing. There doesn't need to be tension. Tim is making the effort, and Damien is just not giving it.
But then, meanwhile, or I guess later, I should say, the bat signal goes off in the sky in Gotham City, and Batman goes to see what it's all about, and finds a little demon spawn standing on a rooftop in a Robin costume. Damien trying to look as innocent as this evil child can.
Mind you, he's still wearing brass knuckles,
yes, and implying that he has just murdered Tim Drake as we end the issue on a full-page shot of Tim Drake's broken and bloodied body in the
Also, I'm curious, whose Robin costume did he steal?
Oh, he definitely took Jason's.
It's Jason's.
That is Jason's costume. Well, yeah, you see the little green shorts lying on top of Tim there in the final page, and the cape, for that matter. It's a different yellow cape there. So yeah. Anyway, on to the last issue of Batman and Son. Or the main story at least. That's it. Thank you. So
and here's where we get real girl boss Talia al Ghul, because
girl boss Talia al Ghul.
This was the moment where I'm like, Morrison, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's
right.
Weird. It's really weird.
She's videotaping Prime Minister's wife in a hostage video. Because this is all about her and what she wants, and it's weird. But yeah, this is Batman and Son Part 4, Absent Fathers. And Bruce finds Tim. And Damien
not doing particularly well, but he finds him.
Damien just straight up tells Bruce he's not your real son.
What an awful human this child is. Oh my god.
Also, there's the implication that he might have done something to Alfred.
He definitely did. There's blood on Alfred's face, a small amount, which really just actually implies that Alfred was able to hold his own with this child. And
Alfred Pennyworth. Alfred Pennyworth as a character should be always the proper butler, but secretly a badass. Well, not so secret.
Oh, there's no secret about it.
There's no secret about it.
No.
But to the public, he's just a normal butler. But really, he could probably murder the Joker. Let's be honest.
It is worth noting we did do adapted material for this episode, and I just love the way that the movie portrays the Alfred Damien relationship.
In the movie, Alfred is played by David McCallum.
Yeah, and he's amazing.
David McCallum. Yeah.
Anyway,
Alfred is going to babysit. Also does some surgery on Tim, including a blood transfusion.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce takes Damien with him, and
against his better judgment.
And we have, their clash of philosophies. I think it's telling that Morrison is putting the Batman should kill philosophy in the mouth of a child. Because in a way,
that's all it is, really.
It's a childish philosophy and a childish misconception of the character of Batman.
Hell, I thought that as a kid. I think most kids thought that, as Batman fans, just like, oh, why doesn't Batman just kill the Joker? It's just like every kid thinks that at some point. Then you grow up,
or you don't,
or you don't. Oh man. Anyway, so Batman goes to visit Kirk and Francine Langstrom to find out what Talia is up to. Then Bruce and Damian take a bat rocket to go across the world to find Talia. Great.
And this is the first time moment. This subtly impressed Damian Wayne. Like, there's this like ever so slight smile of, yes, I am impressed. This is so cool. Deep down, I am a child.
It's so good. Great moment. Anyway, Talia's man-bat ninjas are wreaking havoc. I forget where they are, actually.
Gibraltar.
That's it. So they're there, wreaking havoc, and Batman and Damian arrive to put a stop to things. And again, big fight incoming. Great moment. Great fight sequence.
A lot of musings on fathers. Earlier on, there's a slight musing between Damian and Bruce about Thomas Wayne that is really nice. Because this is all. A lot of this idea is that Damian hasn't really had a father figure, and Damian then tells Talia, "Mother, I've ruined your plans." Like, oh, of course you haven't, darling. I wanted you to bring him here.
I love it. It's a great panel.
Because we get a lot, and I mean a lot of dialogue between Bruce and Talia about how Talia wants a family and a dynasty. And Morrison kind of characterizes Talia as just, again, a jealous ex obsessed with getting her man. And running a dynasty. And I don't love that.
It's not great.
And then she blows up the boat. Damian may or may not be dead. End of issue.
Yeah, it's a little abrupt. It's really abrupt. It's not a great ending, I'll be honest.
I was like, oh, is that's it? Okay.
Yeah, I did tell you ahead. I was like, there is an out. Like, you can just tell in the way that the main story of Batman and Son ends that if this did not go over well, it really didn't go over well, then there was an out if you never had to bring Damian back again.
Because I believe these issues sold pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, Grant Morrison was already fairly established. They'd already done their big Doom Patrol run, their Animal Man run. All-Star Superman would have probably been starting around this time.
I think so. I forget the exact timeline on that, though.
Around this time. Like, they're already a fairly... they've definitely already done, I think, their X-Men run. I think their X-Men run was early 2000s. So established writer, and
but also the run wasn't just doing well because of that. There's also the fact that you're introducing a potentially major character, and people can tell that by talk of Batman's son being in this. So of course, it's going to sell well. It's going to give DC enough confidence to want to do more, and so they did more. And
they did more. Now, in between, there was a story. There was like quite a few. There was a 5-issue story, not by Morrison, not part of the arc, just a standalone
this collection.
Because we then come to Batman 663,
The Clown at Midnight.
This is Grant Morrison going full Morrison.
First off, we have to talk about the art by John Van Fleet. Which is both like. I mean this truly I do mean this in the best way possible. It's amazing, and I fucking hate it as well. And not in like it's scary, I hate it. Like, no, I mean it's almost terrible, if that makes sense.
It's
Like, there comes a point where I just start thinking like, wow, this looks like a PS1 game or something.
well, because it's CGI art.
Yeah. So it gives gives us this really weird, I dare say almost like uncanny valley like look to it
Yeah,
towards the end.
and here's the thing: this isn't presented in standard comic book format.
No, this is
This is a novella.
Yeah,
This,
yeah, it's a novella pretty much. It's got chapters and everything. It's a book. It's just a book. It's not a comic book. It's a book.
so and I don't think any. I mean, I'd like to discuss it. I will. I want to preface this discussion with. I don't think any of our discussion will truly do justice to what Morrison and Van Fleet are doing with this.
Yeah, it's one of those like does kind of have to be read to actually understand it.
Because this is Morrison's big action. That's what this is.
It's pretty much like Morrison's like, I mean, there are other Joker appearances throughout the Morrison run, but I would say like this is like really Morrison's only really big statement on the Batman Joker dynamic, in my opinion. And it's a damn good one. It's a really good one. The idea of the story is basically Joker from within Arkham Asylum is killing all of his past crew members, people that have worked for him in the past. Some of them get particularly personal. This is also a story involving Harley Quinn, which is in a fascinating way, I feel. And also, this Joker in Arkham Asylum is not just a Joker in Arkham Asylum. It's Joker beaten up, bloodied, still, shot in the face Joker in Arkham Asylum. It's great. It's a really threatening way to present the character that I really love.
In a lot of ways, it's also presented as a mystery, like a little mystery novel.
It is, yeah.
And I like that. I love the vibe of a good mystery.
I love probably my favorite aspect of this is actually the one old Joker crew member that was part of the Killing Joke. And so when this information is like presented to Gordon, it's like, okay, this is it gets especially personal. Which is really cool. And and also I love the Harley twist towards the end, which is really awesome.
Yeah, I wasn't. It's so weird because Harley is a character, but I am always like blindsided whenever Harley just shows up in things that we read, and I don't know why.
Does it still feel weird to you for some reason, or?
I don't like.
Is it because she's a B-Task creation, or?
I think that might be it. But here's the thing: I don't get that feeling when like Renee Montoya shows up. It's just Harley.
That's really weird.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's weird.
I suppose it does feel like more of a commodity when you're reading like 90s and early 2000s comics, when her inclusion to begin with was a commodity, pretty much. But especially like in the post New 52 stuff, and
by then it's like Harley's usually on a road, and that's normal. But like here, where she is early characterization Harley Quinn, characterized quite well. But yeah,
and also still keeping the core of the Harley Joker dynamic, in that the big twist towards the end is that in Joker enacting his plan, he makes Harley think that he needs her for this, when in fact she is the last crew member that he wants to kill. And it's just a really great moment. I love that twist. And of course, Harley being Harley doesn't realize what's happening.
I'll also say, Morrison's prose, I'd love to actually read like just an original novel by Grant Morrison, or a piece of original fiction like written by Grant Morrison. And I think they recently put something out. I think it might have been a short story collection or a novel. I know they put something out that isn't a comic, has nothing to do with comics, that I'm fascinated to read. I just can't remember what. It might have been a novel. It might have been a short story collection, because it came out around the time that Alan Moore published a novel.
Cool.
In the last year or so. Yeah. Alan Moore is still publishing stuff. Just not comics for
Obvious reasons.
For very good reasons.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I don't know. That's all I really had to say on the issue. Because again, it's one of those ones. Just like you should read it. You really should.
You have to read it to believe it. There's a lot of lovely little references. The final line and the final page is absolutely devastating. The "Don't you love me no more?" I was like, oh, Harley. Harley.
Oh man, it's awesome. But anyway, next issue. What number is it?
This is 664.
664.
Yeah. This is the Three Ghosts of Gotham. So this is where Morrison starts starts something here that isn't finished by the end of this volume.
Indeed.
It might be finished by Final Crisis.
So the Black Glove is actually something that was reserved specifically to be finished in the main Batman title. So that'll be a Batman RIP thing.
Okay, cool.
Like I'll say, like, don't treat Batman RIP as an epilogue to Final Crisis. Treat it as a direct continuation of the stories we're reading today.
Okay, because that
like RIP is literally like, here is what happened next, with the caveat that Final Crisis has just happened, and you're reading this with the retrospect that like this happened right before Bruce died. Is really what RIP is going to be when we get to that. So
yes.
Anyway,
this Andy Kubert's back on art.
Yes.
Art for these. I want to say it's just the next. I think it's just the next 3 issues. I think Kubert leaves after 666.
Yeah.
Because then it's I want to say then it's J.H. Williams, and then Tony Daniel finishes everything. All the artists here are fantastic. Like they're great, and they all fit their respective stories really, really well.
We open here with some great character interactions between Bruce and Jezebel, whose relationship has been blossoming at this point.
Yes, they are. Again, Morrison writes such a fun, flirty Bruce Wayne. Like, he gives her a blue rose, a Pennyworth blue, one of the rarest roses in the world. Jezebel responds, "Everyone calls me Jet, so I'm just everyone now."
Love it. Smooth shit. It's great.
Yeah. Morrison's also very much played up. It's played up in Batman and Son, and it's all played up here that Bruce Wayne, the persona, is also kind of film James Bond-esque. Like Jezebel Jet refers to herself as a Wayne girl jokingly at one point earlier on.
It's great.
It is great. So they are going, skiing.
And then they're out to dinner, and we get
there's some paparazzo trying to, we think, shoot down Jezebel Jet, but Bruce takes his ski pole and throws it into the wings of the helicopter, potentially murdering a man, or severely injuring.
Then they go out to dinner, and we get the first, I think, real hint of what Jezebel Jet could be as more of a character than just another Bruce Wayne love interest.
Jet has her own agency. She has her agency. She has her own drive. And she doesn't like being lied to.
And so she can tell there's something more behind Bruce. And she talks about her own father, who'd been assassinated previously, and how she knows about Bruce's parents dying when he was really young. And Bruce has this great moment, and he's like, "Jezebel, it was a long time ago. And then this just dead look in his eyes. He goes, "I got over it." And it's just, oh my god, it's so good.
Then paralleled immediately on the next page, Bruce as Batman saving some sex workers,
which is I think it's just really cool to have here. I think that's really nice.
Morrison. find Morrison to be especially for a comic in the early 2000s, pro sex work.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Like Bruce doesn't talk down. I mean, Bruce Wayne, very anti-pimp. Fuck pimps. But it's never like, no, these sex workers are like not deserving of their position or not deserving of safety and money and a stable income because of what they do. And it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Also, kind of flirty at one point.
Yeah, which is also interesting, and I also think I kind of appreciate being there.
Bruce
cool.
knows them by name, and when it turns out the pimp has a child, potentially being on the streets, Batman's like, these people will hire reception girls. You do not have to fall into this life or be controlled, and it's really nice.
And importantly, he hands her a Wayne Tech card.
Yes.
It's like, they'll hire you pretty much, and it's a great moment. Amazing moment, and it doesn't even necessarily have that much to do with the rest of the story. Just a great moment to have there.
It's a great piece of world building, and it's just, I think Morrison's just making a really nice comment about Batman as a character.
But also, this is actually leads to our next moment, though, because apparently there were monsters nearby, and Batman asks them to take him to them. He goes to this place.
It's like a gym. It's an old gym,
and he sees this sort of carnage strewn about here. I don't know. It's not a dead body. I'm wrong. It looked like a dead body. Oh no, it is a dead body.
It is a dead body. It's a woman.
I was looking at one on a different page. Though I guess that one could be dead too. It's a whole thing. Anyway,
and he smells testosterone in the air. And he finds another Batman. That's basically Bane, but Batman.
Batman. They fight immediately breaks out between the two of them, and Bane but Batman is a dangerous combo, it turns out, because Bruce really just does not stand a chance, gets his ass kicked in 3 pages flat, and that is where the issue ends. Taking us into our next one.
665.
665. Hey, I know what the next one is.
Yeah, you know what the next one is. But what's also interesting about all this is Morrison is very much playing on the idea that the only person worthy of being Batman is Bruce Wayne. Like, Batman couldn't necessarily be a cop. All of these cops are corrupt. The only good cop is Jim Gordon. And that's just it's an interesting idea that runs through a lot of the rest of this. And keeps building in very interesting ways, because there are 3 ghosts of Batman is an idea that's brought up, and we've met 2 of them. The one that shot the Joker, this one here, and then a third that will be coming along a little later in the final issues of this volume.
Yes, but this issue is called The Black Cakes Book, as Bruce's beaten, bloodied body is thrown on the streets, and the sex workers that he helped out earlier are there to help him out. And again, just I love that moment. I think that's great. They help him out. They take him somewhere else
to a secret cave in the subway,
where Bruce is able to get away
to the penthouse of Wayne Tower, and he has to recover and be stitched up by Alfred, and has a dream.
And as he is recovering, he sees the ghosts of the 3 Batmen in his dreams, pretty much. He sees the one that shot the Joker, the Bane Batman, a mysterious shadowy third one, and standing at the middle of them all is Damian with his hair all spiked up to look like devil horns. Who says the third ghost is the worst of them all, and Bruce wakes up in this cold sweat surrounded by Alfred and Tim, and he's not doing great. That fight took a lot out of him, and but Bruce being Bruce, he wants to get back up, get right back into it.
And of course, Tim is going to be the one to rush into danger. Because
Tim is on all kinds of edge after his whole encounter with Damien.
Tim is very much a character who will rush headfirst into danger. This is the man who worked out the identity of Batman and Robin and figured it out by himself
as a child.
And it is great. Bruce gives an exposition dump about the black casebook itself that is full of vampires, flying saucers, and time travel.
The idea that these are things that Bruce can't explain in the natural world, and things that he would pretty much rather leave unsolved because he can't explain them.
And what's interesting is that idea will person plays around with the idea of some of these things maybe having an explanation, maybe not. A very big character appears near the end of this volume, and is potentially given a rational explanation, potentially not.
But meanwhile, Tim is going after the Bane Batman guy, who seems to have killed another sex worker, it looks like. And Tim rushes in to try to stop him, tosses his motorcycle into the guy. Being Tim, he's able to dodge for a little bit, but also, again, Bane plus Batman, dangerous combo. Tim's gonna get his ass kicked.
Not kicked very much, because Bruce comes in to save him and for them to work as a team.
Crazy how that works. Bruce is able to save Tim, and they're able to take on Bane, Batman, Batbane. There we go, Batbane together. And they're asking the figure who he is. But Batman and Batbane are held up then by the police, who begin threatening Batman. And again, entire police force is corrupt at the moment. Batman is like, you're on my list. He blows up the Batmobile and is able to escape, leaving Batbane there for the cops.
We have a final scene with Bruce and Gordon talking about, that Gordon's on pressure to, leave all of this alone because somebody's leaning on the mayor. And it's like, okay, well, why are we smacking around a boogeyman? It's like, well, the same reason you would. I figured I could take him. This isn't over. And we get what I am pretty sure is meant to be a tease for Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul.
Well, that and also just to say, finally, at long last, many months later, Damien is in fact alive. One of Talia's men rescues Damien. Takes
they give him a bunch of organ transplants and things. And we get more jealous Talia, who's seen Bruce and Jezebel Jet together.
And who is naked at one point because, haha, Talia, woman, sexy, whatever.
Talia is a femme fatale.
Get it? Look, yo, I love you, Grant Morrison. You need to stop.
I'm glad we at least agree that this is definitely a bad move, because
it's a bad move. Yeah.
I have seen some people try to defend this, and it's
really?
Yeah, most of
what circles were you looking into?
I mean, just some. I was looking into some pretty. I was trying to look into some pretty old forums of like, what was the vibe when Damien first came out, and it was a lot of people who probably don't get out much, and we're treating Talia as a sex object.
Understood.
No. There's a reason it's a problematic trope.
Yeah. Meanwhile in Venice.
Meanwhile in Venice. Speaking okay. My brain through this last pages was just, the ending of From Russia with Love.
I do. You mean this?
Yeah, this. Morrison is putting in so many Bond references, like.
Hey, that's kind of the idea, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. Bruce and Jezebel, like, once again, romance blossoming. They're being watched by reporters from all over because they're two famous rich people. And also, from afar, there's a mysterious figure watching them, and that is where the issue ends.
Which it might be Talia, might not be.
We will find out. We'll find out. But meanwhile, Batman number 666. Oh man, Hellfire and Flame and Damian Wayne.
Here we get a Batman on the cover with this crazy upturned collar and
the exact kind of Batman costume you'd expect Damian Wayne to wear, because this is a potential future story. In fact,
we open with this sort of classic Golden Age style, the legend of the Batman, who he is and how he came to be. Give Damian's backstory in like 6 panels very nicely, as well as potential future Damian of
standing over his father's corpse and taking on the mantle of the Bat for himself. And that is how we end up where we are today in the story Batman in Bethlehem. So, how do we feel about Damian as Batman?
It's a vibe. I believe my note is the Batman costume is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
In this issue, we get a very.
It actually helps that you've seen this costume before.
I have seen this costume before. If you're following Fresh Faced One Shots, this costume has appeared in the backup stories to Tom King's Wonder Woman.
Yeah, another future that implies that Damian is most definitely becoming Batman one day. So there's that.
But in that future, it's also heavily implied that Bruce is still around.
Yeah, and also is not quite as edgy as this.
Damian has friends. At least one friend. Probably more friends than he'd like to admit. He'll only admit to John being his friend.
But yeah, we get some first off some teases of some villains that Grant Morrison won't create for a while yet. Professor Pig here.
There's a villain I've heard of.
Yes. I don't think you know anything about him though. So that's fun. So that won't be until our Batman and Robin days coming up in like the second Omni. So you got some time yet. So.
We also get Commissioner Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, which is awesome, and an idea that Grant Morrison totally stole from Batman Beyond.
I was going to say,
which I'm not going to complain about, but
you're not wrong. But also, she's still in a wheelchair. That. Yeah.
Hey, we love it. Take that, Didio. But yeah, Barbara does not like Damian for some reason. There's some antagonism between the two of them, but she kind of like deals with it because Batman gets shit done, I guess. I also like the way I haven't really taken note of it until now. I like the way the credits are split up across these opening scenes. You have like Batman and Bethlehem, and then like 3 pages later, you actually get the writer and artist credits. And,
it's really, really nice.
Which is nice.
We also get Alfred the Cat.
Yeah, which is both really sad and really funny that Alfred is definitely dead at this point, and Damian has gotten a cat and named it after Alfred.
You want to know what vibe about Batman Damian that didn't work for me?
He's bald. Yeah, it's weird.
Bald.
It's weird. I don't think anyone really knew who Damian was yet, though. At this point, like maybe at the time, he very much gave off the vibe of the kind of guy that would shave his head in his older age. I don't know.
I mean, I like to imagine this is a midlife crisis, and John Kent's gonna fly in to be like, "Okay, Damian."
There we go. That would be the real challenge: is making Batman 666 work with like the current iteration of future Damian.
Yeah, and I mean, this is clearly meant to be a potential future, and I know Morrison likes to make potential futures and play around with timelines and shifting events and things, because it's what Grant Morrison does. But yeah, a lot of this is also very much making a harsher Batman.
This man's fucked up. I mean, it's Damian Batman, so what else would you expect, really? But also, in the far future, we're still dealing with imposter Batmans. The idea is that this third Batman is the future Batman that our current Bruce was worried about. as this future Batman we do not know the identity of, this future evil Batman, I should say. There are a lot of Batmen around, is the point.
There are a lot of Batman around. There's also this interesting satanic bent to the false Batman, because it's partially because this is issue 666.
Yeah, almost like it was planned that way.
Yes.
But yeah, this evil satanic future Batman also has some carnies at his disposal, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's a giant gorilla, so monkey driving up the sales there.
Cyborg Two-Face.
Yeah, looks that way. They have names. They say them on the next page. There's the Weasel. There's Max Roboto, Jackanapes. I don't think that's all their names, but still, they have weird henchmen. Is the point? Also there's also a guy named Flamingo here, who's another villain that Morrison will not actually develop upon until the Batman and Robin days of the next Omni.
But this whole idea is that they're trying to make the city a weapon. And it builds to a fight scene. Damian is injured and saves the day, but is bloodied. And we end with this whole idea that the apocalypse is canceled until I say so.
It's fucking bloody too. Oh my god, it's so violent. It's fucking awesome. That is the end of Batman 666. So, let's see. Oh no, the issue skip does not happen yet. Sorry, that's later.
No, that is
between the third and fourth stories. Yeah. All right. So I'm curious to see what you make of this story.
Okay, remember how I said I love a good murder mystery?
Mm-hmm.
This story was my vibe.
Cool. The Island of Mr. Mayhew, which
this is also the most Silver Age Grant Morrison gets.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The downside is Morrison includes so many characters.
Oh, you can't really keep track of all of them unless you know them pretty intimately.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure these are all Silver Age characters.
Mm-hmm. Importantly, all the implication is people that were inspired by Batman from different countries. Which, if you know anything about the way the Grant Morrison run goes, Morrison is setting things up here. Did you put together that this was sort of like the start of Batman Incorporated here?
Oh yeah, like almost immediately. I'm like, oh, that's what we're doing. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really, really cool.
It's utterly fascinating that Morrison not only seeded so much, but was confident that DC was going to let him stay. Not only let him stay on the book, but let him just stay writing a Batman book long enough to implement all of it across what ended up being 3 titles, one of which was publishing when the New 52 reboot happened. Yeah, so it reset.
And was another one of those ones that was so good they just kind of let it keep going.
Gave it a new number 1, but
yeah. They did the same. They did the same thing with Johnson's Green Lantern. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, Bruce and Tim arrive here at Mr. Mayhew's mansion, where the other crime fighters are waiting.
There's also something called the Black Glove, actually playing roulette, going to ask the question of which is strongest, good or evil. J.H. Williams III is on art. Dave Stewart, once again, on colors. And Stewart's colors throughout these next 3 issues are beautiful.
Yeah.
And they shift very nicely as Williams shifts the art style. But yeah, we have, Tim is like, well, my choices: a weekend nursing my shoulder and dodging Alfred while he single-handedly rebuilds Wayne Manor from the inside out with power drills and the Beatles' greatest hits, or a trip to a private island in the kid to hang out with a bunch of weird C-list crime fighters.
I would take the first option.
Yeah, Tim's assessment is, I'm totally sad either way, Bruce. And it's very fun, but we have, a bunch of different Batman people. We have a character called England's Knight. Uh, we have who is Cyril, and his sidekick Beryl. We have John Mayhew, the man who brought everybody together. We have Man of Bats and Wingman. And what's interesting is this is an island where, for the Club of Heroes, where John Mayhew is missing. He hasn't come to greet them, which is
Classic murder mystery setup.
quite specifically the setup of And Then There Were None, where 10 strangers are brought onto an island when their host is nowhere to meet them, and they start being picked off one by one. I know what you're doing, Morrison. So all of these characters are really unique, at least in terms of design, but there's way too many of them.
So many. So many. Even as someone that's like gone on to read like all of the Batman Incorporated stuff, like it's still so much. Coming back to this story, I was like, I forgot just how loaded it is with just like throwing you new characters that all at once too, no less. If you don't have like a pre-existing connection with them, it's hard to keep track, and even then, it's still hard to keep track if you do. So it's good. It's very good. But and it also helps that the characters have very distinctive designs, so you don't necessarily need to memorize all their names, which is cool. Point being, Batman arrives, and we learn that they all have very differing feelings on Batman. Most of them, at least, having been inspired by Batman's existence.
Also get this feeling that Bruce thinks he's above everybody else, and in a way, he is.
Yeah.
Again, interesting but good characterization. Bruce Wayne is allowed to be a flawed character. Who'd have thought?
Crazy.
One of our important players is Beryl Hutchinson, aka the Squire, and she's very fun. She's sort of a 3-issue love interest-ish for Tim. Not like
she's the main character that is there to work off of Tim.
And
it's a scrappy young sidekick of this side of Batman's counterparts. So that's cool. But in the middle of all this, they are faced with a message supposedly from John Mayhew, but it is not in fact John Mayhew. It's a guy wearing John's face, and it's horrifying. I love it. It's
the whole idea that John Mayhew is dead. The Black Glove points at you. By this time tomorrow, you will all be dead. It's like, oh shit, we're doing a murder mystery.
Yep. And then we get, I love that whole page with the glove and the explosion of all their
vehicles.
Their vehicles, their ways out of there. So they're all now trapped on this island, and one of them is presumably a murderer, or it could be someone else, but it's definitely one of them. Come on. But I forget the Roman guy here, his name.
But he's on his own, and he's stabbed 23 times in the back, just like Caesar on the steps of the Forum, with a little slip of paper saying "Et tu morte," and you death, on it. And we end with advantage, evil. Place your bets with the Black Glove.
And that is where the issue ends, taking us into Batman 668. I did it! Haha! I can count.
I have a feeling the issue jump is going to screw with you, though.
I got Jacob. I fucking got this. I don't. I know I don't. Anyway,
you don't.
Okay. It's getting later. All right. So, moving on. We start off on a flashback here to 12 years ago.
In Mayhew International.
Yes. Presumably the first time that these people inspired by Batman met. They and they wanted Batman to be here, but Batman could not show up himself. Again, just laying the seeds of like this potential disdain among this group. Anyone that could dislike Batman and could have cause to be a murderer. It's really, really cool. I love the way it's done. And now we go to the issue's title page. Now we are dead. Which I love the way it's done with Batman's shadow and the words in there with the skull. It's fucking awesome. But yeah, moving on. They find the body of the Roman Legionnaire. Thank you. But yeah, they investigate his body.
Part of the point is that a lot of people start to split up, which is not what you want to do in this sort of situation.
Naturally.
So,
or I guess
tensions are running high. One of, it's this whole idea of, okay, cool. It could be one of us. One of them is a recovering drug addict. And that one of them on their last case was mind controlled by a gorilla. Get a lot of interesting questions. People have motive.
Plus monkey.
Plus monkey. What's interesting, when Bruce is alone with Tim, the art style shifts to be shadowy and darker.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce actually has some respect for these crime fighters.
Yeah. And what I do also love is that moment, that art shift with Bruce and Tim being alone. The implication there being that it sort of takes you out of the sort of more pulpy Silver Age-ness of the rest of the story, which I really enjoy. It's just a great little touch. I love that. Bruce has respect for these guys, and also the Squire is here with them in this moment, because the Squire acts as, I would say, at least probably like the most important supporting character.
Yes.
She's great. And also, even when the rest of these crime fighters come in here, I think the art style shift on Batman himself stays the same, and he just looks different among them. It's just a great little detail.
It's also interesting because there's this question of, is this real? At least from the other's perspective, is this the real Batman? How would we know? It's like, if I wasn't the real Batman, you'd be dead. We find things. We find that Cyril was forced to swallow a bomb. Because that's also the way his father was killed, which is incredibly gruesome, but also so Silver Age. Like, that's
and
what's
so
great.
So there's a literal bomb inside of him that can go off at any second, and so they're trying to help him. But as
we end up having a running scene, chaos happens as the art turns into a giant bat.
Yes, it looks so good. I love that, with the glove in the middle of it all. It looks fucking phenomenal. And there is another message from, or no, sorry, they replay the same message from the man wearing John's face. And as they do, Robin and the Squire find a secret passage that they're able to descend and continue looking into this.
Again, tensions are still high. Things are cranking up. It's like, are we going to end up killing each other? And then they find Wingman has been hanged, and that a mysterious voice just does a classic murder mystery message of, the Black Glove has chosen you to represent good in a contest between good and evil. You are losing. Shall we raise the stakes, gentlemen? We have your children. Advantage evil. And Bruce can just say, I don't think so.
Going into the final issue of this story, Batman number 669. I can do this. I believe in myself.
You can. You got this.
I know I got this. Anyway, going into this though, once again they're still looking after Cyril, who still has that bomb inside him. We get another flashback sequence to
Cyril and his father, and just a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of interesting stuff about John Mayhew too. Mayhew, kind of an asshole.
A little bit.
I'm not sure that's not going to come back to bite anybody anyhow.
No.
We get some musings about Batman, how superheroes aren't heroes, they're just people, which is interesting. we heard it. Sure, the papers called us the Batman of many nations, but we were really just a bunch of tough guys who'd heard about this new kind of man in Gotham City, a man who wore a bat mask to take the law in his own hand. We were all inspired in different ways. Some saw a chance for redemption. Some were thrill seekers. Some were rich and bored, but heroes? Only a little kid would ever think we were heroes.
Such a great monologue. I love that.
And that's all this character is, trying to save Cyril by making a red-hot knife and cutting his stomach open with Cyril's permission to do so, to try to get the bomb out. It is interrupted, but it works. Also, the bomb is tiny. And is pulled out before it can be thrown away, and it explodes. Because
then it takes a while for the actual title page to show up. The Dark Knight Must Die. Again, great title page. But sorry, you were saying.
Yes, but the entire thing is, this is the third act of the murder mystery. This is where we have to reveal our murder and get to why they did it. And sort of how that can happen is interesting. By the time we get to the title page, we have another of those art style shifts. The most interesting one yet, where it becomes almost watercolor / oil painting like.
Yeah.
As Bruce is on the trail of Robin and the Squire, and Bruce has realized exactly what's been going on. So there's a character called El Sombrero, who is our villain, has tied up Robin and Beryl.
Yes.
Dear listener, if you hear a little background, my cat wants attention.
I can tell by all the moving around on your end.
Yes. And turns out, surprise, Wingman's not dead.
Nope.
Wingman is, in fact, John Mayhew.
And the murderer.
And the murderer. And it turns out that the Black Glove was a real thing that is paying him to do this, that took him seriously.
And it all immediately sort of adds these larger stakes to not just this, the run as a whole, because this is not a story that is ending. The Black Glove, at least, is a story that's not just ending with this issue. It's very much extending beyond that. So that's cool. That's very fun going forward. But in the end, Mayhew is beaten. Is he? He's not killed here, is he? I'm just trying to find it because it's been a little bit since I reread it.
It's not quite clear. It's very much could still be alive. It very much says Mayhew got away at the end. His accomplice might have died. We aren't sure because there are bombs, and it's very much this idea of the Club of Heroes being a sort of fruitless endeavor. Especially with the way that this story ends, and it ends there on a really somber note. A really, really solidly somber note that is quite sad in a lot of ways, and just really fascinating.
But that does end that particular story. Then there is an issue jump, because what we're covering next time on the podcast, with our crossover event, the Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul. So we're actually jumping forward then and going into Batman number 672.
Yes, 672.
I did it. Haha! I didn't have to look at anything.
Which is basically the last 4 issues in between Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul and Batman R.I.P.
Yes. And there are some pretty significant issues.
Very significant. Utterly fascinating. This is where we get to meet the third ghost.
Yes.
So starting, what's interesting is that This one starts in media res, basically. And you don't feel like you're missing out on like a big crossover in between. You can definitely jump 669 to 672 fairly easily.
Thankfully, there's a reason they don't feel the need to include Resurrection here, though it is great to have and a pretty important piece for us to do next time before we continue with the run. But we actually get our future evil Batman from Batman 666 showing up here at the start of this issue,
demanding to be brought Commissioner Vane.
Yes.
And nobody seems to know who Commissioner Vane is. That's part of this mystery, is who is this commissioner? Because it's not Gordon, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Who is this Batman? These last 4 issues are drawn by Tony S. Daniel.
Yes, who's a lovely artist. I know I forget what we've done by Tony Daniel before.
We've done the first issue of Detective Comics from the New 52 that was drawn by Daniel. There might have been a couple of other small appearances here and there, but that's the big one that comes to mind.
Okay. Well, Tony Daniel actually will have more of next time as well, because he does the detective issues in the crossover.
Yes. Yes. What's especially interesting is that Gordon tries to talk to this guy down. It's like, I'm Commissioner Gordon. Vane doesn't work here anymore. You can talk to me. Meanwhile, we have Bruce still being a playboy. And slowly, as the gossip columns have basically been asking, ooh, are Bruce Wayne and Jezebel Jet engaged to be married? Are they totally and completely an item?
We also get a great little appearance of a jealous Vicky Vale, which is really fun.
A jealous Vicky Vale, an utterly sarcastic Alfred who's like, oh, engagement rings, sir? Oh, you should know better than to retrust Gotham Noir, Alfred.
It's a great moment.
But yeah, Bruce and Jezebel Jet are going to be base jumping for charity, which is, intercut with fake Batman holding up the GCPD,
and so
holding a cop called Forelli hostage who knows something about this.
Mm-hmm. And then as Bruce and Jezebel go jumping, they are up in the sky. They see the bat signal, and so when they jump, Bruce is able to just kind of fall out of the way.
Penthouse,
and make a quick change into
a gorgeous page of into the bat suit. Also, we have had what's really nice is that the Batman costume that Bruce has worn is the blue suit, which I think is really fitting for Morrison's run.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really fitting. So, Bruce is able to meet with Gordon, tries to find this, not meet with Gordon, the fake Batman attacks Gordon. That's when Bruce can swoop in and actually fight this false Batman.
Yes. And then Bruce is shot. Shot, bleeding out, dying.
He goes his vitals into cardiac arrest, and
his vitals. They do this great page where, as his vitals drop, pretty much you could see him drawing with his finger the line that would be a heart monitor, basically spelling out Zer
and R.
A bat crashes through a window, presumably in Bruce's mind, though I guess it's Morrison, so who knows at this point.
Because then we see the full Zur-En-Arrh. A lot can happen in 5 minutes, and suddenly Batmite is here.
And that is just where the issue ends.
And at this point, I'm like, what the fuck? Morrison is gone full Morrison.
Yep. In the best way.
I love it. I love it. It's great.
On to Batman 673,
You're doing great with these numbers, Joey.
See, I can count. I can do this. Beautiful cover. Oh my god, I love that cover so much. God damn, that's amazing.
Yeah, great cover.
Jacob, why are you like this? This makes this kind of shit makes no sense on the podcast when it happens.
No, it doesn't,
because they can't see us.
I wasn't trying to get any video. I was trying to make you silently aware that there was a cat. So
well, I'm gonna call it anyway. So fuck you. Anyway, next up, Joe Chill. Joe Chill.
Yeah, Joe. This issue is called Joe Chill in Hell, and oh my god, Morrison is fascinating here. Like, this might be.
First off, I have to know: are you aware of that one story? I can't think of what the miniseries is called that it comes from. There's a miniseries. It was a 3-part miniseries, I think from the 70s, I want to say. It was actually adapted into an episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold. There's a story about Batman confronting Joe Chill and revealing who he is to Joe Chill.
I think I was aware of that.
It's a great story. The idea is pretty much that, you know, Batman confronts Joe Chill eventually, takes off his mask and says, "This is what you did to me." And Joe Chill goes running back to his men, and he's like, "Oh my God, guys, you won't believe this. I shot this kid's parents long time ago, and that kid grew up and he became Batman. I created Batman." And basically all his guys turn on him and are like, "You made Batman," and they killed Joe Chill. Great story, great idea.
And it's intentionally riffing on, I mean, even the credits for this issue give a special with thanks to Bill Finger, who, I don't know if Finger wrote that, but Finger created...
No, Bill Finger did not write that, no.
But Finger created the character of Joe Chill.
Yeah. So this very much reminds me of just that story, is all I was trying to say, I guess.
We're paralleling this with... So this all might be in Bruce's mind as he is going into cardiac arrest. I think, again, the difficulty here is Morrison is also playing with the metatext. So these events could also be a reflection of things that may have actually happened to Bruce at some point in the past. It's weird, and I love it. But it does make for a slightly just confusing on the reality of the situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because we see Joe Chill terrified that someone's going to get in, while Bruce monologues about the Thogal ritual, which is a form of meditation of a 7-week retreat where the practitioner goes under an experience designed to simulate death and after death and rebirth, and goes through 7 weeks. And it's like, oh shit, Batman's having a heart attack, and we're meant to believe that these voices are things that Batman is remembering on these 13 days of isolation, also in this 5 minutes. It's a lot. Again, another one of these issues where just talking about it won't do it full justice.
Yeah.
This might be my favorite issue of the volume, honestly.
Very, very positive. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I mean, Clown at Midnight might be mine, actually.
That's also true, but Clown at Midnight was also maybe a little... such its own entity. It's also hard to compare that, because, yeah. Grant Morrison is a very talented writer.
Just a little bit.
But yeah, so we reflect on Bruce as a character, as Batman pre-Robin, Alfred insisting that he has a record of everything. A lot of the guilt, a lot of his training in Nanda Parbat is brought back. We get this flashback to the killing of Thomas and Martha Wayne, with this image of Batman with a gun being responsible for it. All while we have Joe Chill talking to his lackeys about how when he started, there were no Jokers and Two Faces, and that it was just crime. And he's sort of losing his mind. because he then tries to shuffle these cards,
and all of his lackeys die around him instantly. It seems
die and decay. Like one of them,
you could see like literally the life sucked out of the one.
Yeah.
And then Batman arrives in full Detective Comics 27 regalia, minus the purple gloves, you bastards. But it's okay. And he arrives, and you're also doing this whole thing of like cutting back and forth between Batman taking on these thugs.
Bruce as a kid falling down the well.
Yep.
And then seeing Jason's funeral. What's clearly supposed to be Jason's funeral. In I think a nice little retcon. What I think might be. So I'm trying to figure out who the pallbearers are supposed to be.
Well, see, here's the thing. I wonder if it's also, could it be a look at Bruce's death?
That's also possible.
Because I'm assuming it's Alfred, Barbara, definitely Clark, Dick, Oliver, and I'm pretty sure Hal.
Okay, yeah, because I wasn't sure who you think Hal is.
Yeah, I think Hal would be the one at the back there with the brown hair, yeah. the more like bluish gray suit.
Yeah, but it's so clearly Dick and Clark and Alfred and Barbara.
Yeah,
and now that you mentioned it, that's definitely Oliver Queen.
Oh yeah,
with the goatee.
Yep.
And we're also in this spectral forest, which is a mythological image, if that makes sense.
And Batmite is still there.
We very much have the image
Bruce
of
throughout it all,
going into the woods. But yeah, Batmite is here, and Batmite may just be a figment of Bruce's imagination. And then we reflect on, you might be you created this isolation for yourself of this loneliness because you think you're guilty for the death of Robin, which is clearly meant to be the death of Jason. It's like why he's been keeping Tim at arm's length, especially because Jason just came back. We see glass tubes with all 3 Robin suits in them. Again, metaphorically representing a lot of the guilt. And what becomes interesting is then that the next page has Batman being rescued by Robin, Robin that's clearly supposed to be Dick.
See, I would think it's Jason, actually.
Is it Jason?
Because the first thing Batman says when he sees him is, "Robin, you're alive."
Right, it might be. So it is. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's supposed to be Jason. I screwed that up.
No, it's all because it makes sense. Well, yeah, coming straight off of the Batman looking at the glass cases.
We also get the mention of space medicine, which was the title of this issue of this story. Yeah, so basically creating these hallucinations.
Then meanwhile, back with Batman and Joe Chill, he just hands Joe Chill the gun
with 1 bullet in the magazine.
Yep. And that's why it reminds me of it. See, I was trying to think of the scene. I knew it reminded me of it for a reason. It's literally the "I made you, I made Batman." It's literally that moment. That's great. They'll all kill me if they find out. Yeah, okay, yep, literally. I wouldn't doubt if that was a reference to that. I'm trying to think what the miniseries was called now. Fuck. I want to say it might have been by Denny O'Neil. No, wait, no. It's by fuck, why can't I think of his name now? Len Wein. I think it's by Len Wein.
Sounds like a Len Wein idea.
I'm pretty sure. Tales of the Batman. That's it, by Len Wein. 3 issues. Yep, that is definitely it. Anyway,
yeah. So Joe Chill has to be like, how am I supposed to live like this?
And the implication is that Joe Chill is going to kill himself because of it.
Heavily. We get one last year 1, like Detective Comics 27 Batman, And we then are brought back to reality with actual Bruce waking up that this isolation chamber experiment happened years ago. It's like, did he die? It's like, wait, I had a heart attack. Wait, why did you save my life? It's like, I did. How lucky do you feel right now, Batman, as
the fake future Batman is staring him in the face? And that is where we end the issue, going into Batman 674. I think I'm going to make it to the end of this.
Yes, you are.
Anyway, Batman dies at dawn.
Yeah. So okay. This is Cop 3 in a Batman suit is probably the line that spoke out the most to me, from the first page at least, because this is where we get the explanation that there was a man called Dr. Hurt, who was a liaison with the military, who set up these experiments to create a Batman replacement.
And do that through the police force.
Yes. Also, heavily implied to be being done in between the time that Gordon has joined the force and before he's become commissioner.
Probably, yeah.
We have a commissioner called Vane. So, we have a different commissioner. And it's an interesting idea. Because again, Morrison is playing with this whole idea of the legacy of Batman. Who can be Batman? And this is the first time that this Batman has seen the real Batman up close. And at this point...
But also, Bruce is still teetering on death, so...
We get another flashback.
Yeah, more flashback, more dream sequences.
With Batman and Robin, a Robin that is endangered, which I still thought was Dick. Could be Jason.
Could be.
This one feels a little ambiguous.
Yeah. I think the idea is more. I think the idea throughout all of them is that it could be any Robin, but the
only one I don't think it is Tim. It doesn't. None of the dialogue feels particularly Tim.
Yeah, but again, like it's one of those. Like I feel like it could be anybody, but
yes. But here's Batmite remanifesting while Bruce is in the room. And again, there's this whole idea of Bruce trying to figure out where he is, what he's doing. If he's going to survive this, as Bruce is being tortured, while Batmite is talking all about how everyone's rooting for him, and this whole idea that he's been your very best secret pal, and you wouldn't ever lie to you, right? This would be a good time to turn up the memories of what you let them do to you. These are the secrets of death we teach. We came all the way from Space B at the fivefold expansion of Zerf to prepare your passage. And then there's this whole Batman file of what Dr. Simon Hurt did, implying that there was some post-hypnotic keywords implanted that don't get fully explained what they are. At least not yet. I have a feeling it'll come up later in the run.
This is one of those fun things that I part of just can't wait to get back to this eventually. But we won't be following up on this, obviously.
Yes. But then we get 2 pages from Gordon's perspective, and I just love Jim Gordon scenes.
Just ones that he has all to himself, especially surrounded by corrupt cops like this. It's a great moment. Just a really great moment.
And it turns out, surprise, these experiments happened in the basement of GCPD. In the head. This is at a point where Gordon was demoted. Also, I love that it's like, but Gordon, you're injured. I can limp just fine.
I love Gordon. What a guy. But yeah, then once again in Bruce's delirium, let's say, is haunted by the 3 fake Batmen, and then faced with the names and faces of the fake Batmen that were used in these experiments. Just a really just a haunting moment where like you see like like you put faces to those names and you see how that affects Bruce. It's a great moment.
How one of them killed his entire the Bane Batman killed his entire family. The first one, well, they both killed their entire family, and then Dr. Hurt himself went crazy, and we have this whole weird again another Satanist type thing. As we have someone killing people with a pentagram and blood behind him, and it's a really interesting. Again, Morrison doesn't give us the answers to exactly what happens, partially because, well, a lot of this idea is where we really get the thesis of, yeah, they were all strong, but they weren't Batman. Like, you could make a clone of Bruce Wayne, but it wouldn't be Batman, because there's only one Batman.
Yep.
And it's Bruce Wayne. And it's sort of, it's very much implied that it's because that's just who Bruce is. And before really we can get any answers, the cops burst in and shoot the guy in the face, and Bruce makes an exit before Gordon can even meet with him. And
then Bruce has to set up his cover story as he runs away from the police. So he changes back into Bruce, puts his jumping gear back on, and throws himself into a dumpster. Taking us into our final issue for today, Batman number 675. The Fiend with Nine Eyes. So first off, small Nightwing appearance, which is cool.
Nice big, larger than small, a fairly substantial Nightwing appearance. I was maybe it's because I knew Dick was in the film adaptation. I was expecting a bit more of Dick here.
I get that.
Not to be disappointed with it, because it's still,
there's a lot of Dick Grayson in our next story we're doing, so there's that.
Yeah, because there are 2 issues of Nightwing in our next story that we're doing.
Yeah. And I actually just really love Dick Grayson's role in the next story.
Yes.
So.
But yeah, this feels like the first time Dick and Tim have had a chance to talk after everything that's happened to them recently. In a lot of ways. Meanwhile, Bruce is on a date with Jezebel Jet.
Still being so curious about what Bruce is.
And genuinely caring that this man should be in the hospital, and they have a fight. Like, Jezebel Jet is a woman who isn't going to take well to all the Bruce Wayne charms. It's almost like she's a fully realized character or something.
Crazy. But yeah, Bruce still dodges her, and before I could get I guess worse than that.
The argument is boiling, it's bubbling, it's going to the point where it's going to boil over. She's going to leave him, and the waiter dies.
And
this entire sequence is just this great pacing of an argument to the point of tension and utterly throwing you for loops. It's like, wait, why the waiter just die? What?
Yeah, and then this guy breaks in with eye tattoos on his fingertips, and
one of his middle fingers cut off. I believe this is a Silver Age Batman villain called the Ten-Eyed Man or something.
I did not know that.
I'm pretty sure it is. If not, it should be, because that's the vibe. This man can see with his fingers.
But this guy, he fights Bruce, or he beats up Bruce, because Bruce isn't going to fight back quite yet. But meanwhile, we actually catch up with Talia for a little bit. And
Malcolm Merlin.
Merlin. Well, okay, he's not Malcolm Merlin. That's an Arrow thing, actually. He's just Merlin the Archer.
Merlin the Archer. Well,
but same character. Yeah, it's an Arrowverse thing.
I had a certain voice in my head for this character.
That's a reasonable thing. It's like the only major adapted version of the character. So, yeah, kind of a random appearance here, but he is actually he's important. So
it's important to the issue, and this is also set up for things that are happening later.
Yeah. So, we're also like training Damian in this scene, and he's shooting some arrows, and it's a whole thing. It's cool.
Damian actually talks back to his mother, albeit briefly. Which is something I don't think Damian of Batman and Son would do, which already showing some character growth.
Well, that's the thing. Also, is like with this scene, there's a whole chunk of character development you're kind of missing from Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul.
Again,
I'm gonna say there's a lot of important things that happen for Damian in that story.
There's that's like a 9-ish issue story. One of those is an annual. So
So there's a lot happening there. So we'll pick up with that next time, of course, though. So, but meanwhile, Bruce is the nine-eyed man now, I guess, is actually
with 9 eyes.
Yes, is taking Jezebel with some thugs that he has with him, and
there's commotion while outside Dick and Tim are on patrol having some conversations about Batman and Son, and I'm guessing about Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul.
Most definitely, yeah.
As they come in to save the day.
I'll say there's. I forget exactly how this conversation goes here, right? Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. There's some shit that Dick and Tim have to work out together after Resurrection. So
yes.
But yeah. So yeah, on patrol they take out this guy that's fighting them. It's a whole thing, whatever. But point being, back to where Bruce and Jezebel were. Bruce goes after the man taking Jezebel, and ever so slightly beats the living piss out of him.
Yeah, and then it builds a couple scenes later. There's one more scene.
Sorry. Let's cover, I guess, the things that happen in between first. So another conversation between Malcolm, not Malcolm. Oh, I was calling Malcolm. See, this is what you did to me. Merlin and Talia.
Talia sends Merlin to keep an eye on Bruce. Dick and Tim actually break in and begin
to see what happened to Bruce. But then Bruce beats the living piss out of the fiend with 9 eyes. And
including burning the tattoos off his fingers with hot vegetable oil?
Yeah. And Jezebel sees this, and I fucking love that page of Bruce up against the bat signal in the sky with the lightning.
And he looks like a Frank Miller Batman?
Yeah. You see that moment happen where Jezebel just realizes, because she's been inching closer to this secret that Bruce has been keeping from her, and just puts it together. And knows where the issue ends, of course, is that she
Bruce Wayne Batman,
and it's so fucking good.
It is a page to end on. We are also 2/3 of the way through the first Omni, technically, with all of this.
Yep. Yep. With, of course, a trade yet to cover. And RIP will be its own episode at some point in the future. So yeah. Plus, Final Crisis will be important. So
yes.
Yeah.
And then Battle for the Cowl, right? I think.
Battle for the Cowl, I would personally do Battle for the Cowl then, and then do the whole Batman and Robin run, mix in Return of Bruce Wayne in there. Then it's Batman Incorporated time, and that's pretty much it. So
yeah, then that's the Morrison run.
Yeah,
but this is the start, and it is fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Even it overcomes a lot, even with the one.
Talia is the only thing holding it back.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's stopping this from being a perfect book. So close.
And I will say she's handled a lot better in Resurrection because there's multiple writers taking her on in that. So
and one of those writers is Paul Dini.
Paul motherfucking Dini. I love him. Yes. We all love him, of course. But yeah, that'll be next time. That'll be episode 62. Holy shit, we're going to be 62 episodes in. That's
Yes.
Wait a second. I'm just
Also,
realizing, did I put the wrong number in the thumbnail? I made the thumbnail for this episode today, and I have a feeling I put 62 in for some
this
reason.
is 61. This is 61.
Oh no, I did have it right. 61. Okay, cool. Wow.
Yeah.
The
Anyway, we have
the weird
adapted
fears that randomly
material.
overtake me. Anyway, so we also did adapted material for this, which was cool.
Which is cool. We did Batman and Son, starring Jason O'Meara as
It's Son of
Omara.
Batman, but yeah,
I keep making that mistake.
that's understandable. But yeah, Jason O'Mara is Batman,
Batman?
who you've seen before in Justice League War and Throne of Atlantis and Hush.
Hush and The Death and Return of Superman.
Yep.
Yeah,
excellent Batman. I always
quite
like
good Batman. Yeah, quite fun.
But the star of that film is
Stuart Allen.
Stuart Allen. Oh my god.
Stuart Allen.
This was back when Andrea Romano, who cast, the whole DC animated universe, the Bruce Timm verse. This is back when she was still casting those movies, and
she was voice director on the film.
She found Damian Wayne first fucking try.
And
it's the first time Damian had ever been adapted, and they just fucking nailed it right.
It has one of Andrea Romano's best voice casting, and sadly one of her worst.
Look, I think
Deathstroke is added into the story. The story is mostly an adaptation of just Batman, of just the Batman and Son story arc, with
a bit more of a complete, this is still Damian actually becoming Robin by the end of that movie.
Speed running. I don't want to say speed running because they actually altered the characterization pretty well to make.
It's done very well. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies of that universe personally.
Yes. It's quite good. It's solid.
But there's Deathstroke is a weird casting. I don't even know who plays him.
His line delivery
my favorite one. So you're Talia's little bastard. It's just like
it is this.
That is the voice I think of when I think of Deathstroke.
It is this weird emphasis.
He's so weird. But otherwise, the cast is amazing. Sean Mayer as Nightwing is one of my personal favorites.
It's great. We kind of nailed the Dick and Damian relationship.
Yeah. I love their banter in that. It's so good.
Obviously, David McCallum as
Alfred, who we already mentioned earlier this episode. He's amazing.
Giancarlo Esposito as Ra's
al Ghul. The brief appearance he gets, he's amazing. Marina Baccarin as Talia, who's pretty great.
And
is there anyone else that we're missing?
Who plays Langstrom in that film?
Oh, that's it. I can't think of who does him actually.
Yeah, but it's really well cast. It's a genuinely good film. It's genuinely
probably the best of that original Damian trilogy they did for that universe, because the second one's just flat out bad, and the third one is okay.
I see.
So
wow,
yeah.
This one was actually good. The actor
it's actually really good. Yeah,
it's also really good, especially for a direct-to-DVD budget.
Well, I mean, they were already crushing those animated films even back in 2014. Yeah. So yeah.
I just checked. Langstrom was played by Xander Berkeley.
I don't know who that is.
According to Letterboxd, he is known for a role on the crime drama The Mentalist and a role in 24. So a TV actor. He was pretty good. Oh, and you have the always fun creature voice work of D. Bradley Baker.
Oh, naturally. He gets to do all the Man-Bats in that, so yeah.
Yeah, all the Man-Bats.
Yeah. I will say, if you do continue that trilogy, because I did give you the opportunity to watch the second of that trilogy, but you chose not to, way back when we did Court of Owls.
Yeah.
But there is actually a really great Kevin Conroy, Thomas Wayne appearance.
That'll be fun.
It's really great, yeah. So, but otherwise, it's just a bad Court of Owls adaptation. So whatever. Anyway, but then oddly enough, for the third movie, they go back to adapting the Morrison stuff. I don't fucking get it. Whatever.
Well, I'm sure we may as well slip in that second one at some point during this run.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, I guess whenever we get back around. Actually, we could do it next time because we don't have any other adapted material for next time.
We might as well because it's
may as well. Yeah, it's a shorter book, and if we're just doing more Damian stuff, may as well. Yeah, why not? Let's do that next time.
Yeah, we'll be doing Batman versus Robin with the resurrection of Ra's al Ghul.
It's not going to make much sense, but I think also we've watched random movies with random books before, so
yeah. I mean, we're trying to fill in a gap, make sure before we get to the Morrison stuff that the third one adapts.
Yeah. So, anyway, but yeah, I guess that was Batman and Son. This is a long episode. Wow, we went on a while about that one.
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen because. Yeah.
And that is why I wanted to start recording earlier tonight. So
yes, I know it was going to happen because Morrison is a writer who you really want to try to go in deep and analyze with.
Definitely. Yeah. So I'm glad we did. So, okay, not really anything to guess about for this episode.
We're doing Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul next time.
I am curious though, what you personally think the rest of this DC block will be holding, just in general, for you.
Yeah, I'm not going to give anything away now. That's.
Oh, okay. Wow.
All largely right. Because I haven't honed in.
You don't have an actual guess, do you?
I haven't honed in on any guesses yet.
Good. Anyway, otherwise, promotions. What do you got going on, Jacob?
Well, over on my blog, I'm currently working my way kind of slowly through the Thrawn trilogy for Star Wars Legends.
It's true. I have you reading that.
If you're reading that, I'm reading that. It's wonderful. There's that. I have gone back to the EDAs and PDAs for Doctor Who as well. Those are slowly trickling out. Among some other things, for book-wise, for TV reviews, I am still reviewing Star Trek. This week, if you're watching this as it came out, we did Elan of Troyes.
Yes.
Which I'm sure I have an opinion on.
I'm sure you do, and I definitely do. So check out the video on that is already out. It's a fun one. It's a fun video. I think it is. Anyway, otherwise things on the channel. There's Fresh Face One Shots. We're talking about Superman by Joshua Williamson, Wonder Woman by Tom King, Batman Brave and the Bold by Various. Those are all great. We also recently talked about the Trinity special that came out recently, which is mostly reprints. But hey, if you're not reading Tom King's Wonder Woman, the Trinity special might be just for you, actually. So it might be a good entry. So
might be a good entry point. So check out those.
Also, let's see. Star Trek was already mentioned. Breaking Brian will resume at some point, probably.
Brian has been very busy recently, and it is become difficult to try to schedule things with that man.
Yeah, just a little bit. Well, I swear there's something else I have to talk about on my channel. R2BD. The third episode is coming out at some point this month. Not sure exactly when, but some point this month. So yeah, that'll be.
Thanks everybody for a pretty good fun January.
January was cool. Things. Yeah, we had some great Marvel releases that we had out.
And thank you everybody for enjoying the Marvel stuff.
Those seem to go down pretty well with people. So
Marvel will be back sooner than you think.
Yeah.
But we have some DC to do first.
We do, and I'm very excited about our DC we have coming up. So. All right, I guess that about does it. So otherwise socials will be linked in the description below, link trees and all that. You can buy the book on Amazon and our next reading as well. That'll all be linked in the description below. That'll be there. I think I forgot to mention that last time, didn't I? Probably.
I don't quite remember.
I forget a lot of things. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening. Until next time, this has been Joey Morgan
and Jacob Licklider.
Goodbye.